It appears that we are live. So, hello, everyone. Welcome. This is new for us, but it's also an annual tradition. This is, once again, You're Missing Out, reacting kind of in real time to the latest inductees to the National Film Registry. I am, as always, Mike Natale.
And I am, sadly, as always, Tom Lorenzo.
But you might notice if you're watching this on YouTube, because we are live streaming this and deathly afraid of how that's going to wind up, giving Tommy live mic. But we are live streaming this. You might also notice there's another person on this video that doesn't look like Kyle. I would say probably not. Oh, well, the dog. The dog is also there, but the dog's been on the show before. No. Kyle,
we got someone who could actually grow facial hair.
Oh, jeez. Tom, Kyle is unable to join us this year for our annual tradition, and Anthony DiCaprio was gracious enough to come on and be willing to help us out with this.
He's going to be our MC tonight because Kyle thought he'd be able to reschedule nap time, but he wasn't. So we had to get a grown-up who was able to do grown-up things whenever they wanted to.
Going in on this fella.
We are.
I love the little boy. He's my Atreus.
We're excited to do this. Anthony, thank you so much for doing this. Do you want to say hi to everybody
Yes.
watching, listening, whatever? Let them know.
Yes, thank you for having me, fellas. I used to do podcasts with Tommy back in the day. I don't even remember. What was the name of that one? What do we call that one?
I don't know. That was with Andrew, right?
Correct.
I don't remember the name of it. He probably remembers, but I don't know.
Yeah, we tried it out. It was fun. I always had fun doing it, so it's cool to come back and do this thing just for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
before work.
Really selling it strong. Cool to come back into this, before work or whatever. So we are very excited to do this. I am just sending out a tweet letting folks know we are live, which is an irksome thing to do, but I'm doing it nonetheless. We are here. We are talking about the latest inductees to the Library of Congress's National Film Registry. If you guys have never seen or listened to the show before, You're Missing Out is a podcast specifically about the films in the National Film Registry. Every year since 1989, the Library of Congress selects 25 films that they feel are culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Those go into the National Film Registry to be preserved and restored. So a little bit of your tax dollars goes to kind of take these culturally significant films and make sure that they are safe and preserved for the next generation. Our show goes through those films induction year by induction year, but we always do a special episode whenever a new class of inductees comes out, and we react to them. Part of the reason we react to them is because it's cool to find out what has been selected, what has been deemed culturally, historically significant. But it's also because at the end of each episode of our podcast, Tom and I each select a film that we think should go into the National Film Registry. And just like any other member of the public can, we submit these films every year in a list to the Library of Congress to be considered. And one of the cool things is that every time we've done one of these reaction episodes thus far, at least one of the films that we put forward for consideration has wound up in there. So that's always fun. Normally, at the start of these, we read off the films we've submitted. But we've been doing this for 3 seasons now, going on a 4th, which would mean reading over 150 titles to you guys. And that's a big old waste of time. So we already did that. You can find that video on our YouTube channel. I think it's called Recklessly Speculating on the Registry. You can hear all those titles, but hopefully we remember what we submitted so we can see if any of them made it in.
Oh, no chance I remembered at all. We did this yesterday.
Yep. Without further ado, what's going to happen now? We're going to start. Anthony's going to read us one title, the year in the title. If we know what that film is, we're going to talk about it.
I just want to say it's cool to always doing this because these induction classes are getting further and further along. So it's like, oh, what movies are we not going to be able to cover because we're dead? This is going to be what, 30 years ahead of time at the pace we're going?
Yeah. This would be like season 36, 37, something like that.
I'm not making it another
No.
35
No.
years. No, not
No.
a chance. I'm
Well,
Italian. My heart's gonna explode. Like,
that's
what are we doing?
That's kind of the problem. We're all three of us on camera now are Italian. That's going to be what takes us all out. Okay, we know this.
Yeah.
Okay. All of us at age 60 are going to have a doctor who's going to go, you got to cut down on the cheese and the olive oil. And all three of us will go, absolutely not.
My doctor's going to be
No
like,
chance.
how are you still going?
So this is fun too, because normally the audience can't see it, but we have cameras set up and we can see our regular producer, Kyle, who is always like super concerned about everything that's going on and everything that Tom is saying. And now we have Anthony, who's here just kind of occasionally looking down and going, I don't know. I guess if you guys are cool with him saying that, I'm not going to react. I guess. Whatever. I've known this.
I grew
It's
up.
like Kyle's Gary Cooper in High Noon, and Kyle is the sheriff who's going to take over. But then he knows, like, oh no, something bad's about to happen, so I'm just leaving.
Anyway, what's going to happen?
That? I don't know. Whatever. Let's do this stupid
Anthony is going to give us a year and a title. If we know it, we're going to talk about it right then and there. If not, he will read us the handy statements that the National Film Registry has written to explain these films. We always have a great time with these registry statements because sometimes they're real out there. Without any further ado,
Let's do it, baby.
Anthony, kick us off. What is the first film inducted for the 2023 class?
Here we go. Number 1 is A Movie Trip Through Filmland, 1921.
Wow.
You guys know that one?
No, starting in the 20s, though.
Yeah, that's interesting. Filmland sounds familiar. There's a couple things. Is this a cartoon? No, it would be too early for a cartoon. It sounds like the title, though. Am I crazy, Tom? Like that sounds like the title of one of those like barely screened Looney Tunes cartoons that would just be like Bugs Bunny meets like W.C. Fields.
It sounds like something they play at like the World's Fair to be like, hey, you ever hear of these moving picture shows?
Yeah, well, 1921, that is possibly like, it might literally just be, let's tell you what film is. Like, let's literally explain what film is. Anthony,
hey, gang, did you get excited about the rise of the KKK with Birth of a Nation? Well, let's get even deeper into the motion picture film.
Yeah, that is truly nuts to think about. Anthony, what is this film?
You guys are pretty good at this. It's
I called it.
I hope not.
No,
I hope it's not what Tom said.
Not what Tom said. What Mike, what you said.
Okay.
Yeah.
This educational and highly informative film about the production of motion picture film stock and the impact of movies on a global audience was shot at Kodak Park, the headquarters of Eastman Kodak Company in Rochester, New York. Film begins with a gathering of animated, you were right, multinational characters as they attend the International Convention of Movie Fans. The animated curtains part, and the audience sees Kodak Park and a short movie detailing every step of the film manufacturing process, including statistics on how much raw cotton, silver, and water is used to create the 147,000 I knew I was going to misread something. 147,000 miles of film stock produced in 1929, enough to circle the globe. Preserved by the George Eastman Museum in 2005 from 2 tinted and toned diacetate prints in collaboration with the Eastman Kodak Laboratory in Rochester, funded by Eastman Kodak and Eastman Kodak commercial, basically.
Well, you know why they picked this, right? Because Kodak's making film again.
That's true. That's a great point. And I have to imagine this is one of those like we just found it nitrate print kind of deals. But that I got to tell you, that sounds. I mean, Tom, you could tell as soon as they started reading, I was just like, well, that's aimed right at me. That sounds like exactly the kind of.
I'm surprised
niche.
That's not what you go to sleep listening to.
By
I
the
hope
way,
there's Italian cartoon characters in there. Multinational film fans. I mean, because that's back in the day when it's like, here's white people, here's black people, here's Italian people.
Yeah. You don't count. Anthony, I also want to say thank you for doing this. I didn't realize the first paragraph you would get would be so full of unnecessary technical terms.
Well,
I mean, we should have figured that because
Yes.
when they start early, like if we go chronologically, it's
Yeah.
always this weird shit where it's like, oh, we found an instruction manual on how to explain what film is it with cartoon characters to the rubes in Kansas.
But it was just like it was fun, the arc that Anthony had to go on reading that, because it starts with like, yeah, animated characters telling you about how film is made. Yeah, it seems pretty interesting, and made up with cotton, silver, and dye act. And then it seems like it just became a periodic table after a certain point.
Done with cotton, silver. Explain the relativity theory.
Well, it's funny because I went through the list this morning before I woke up, and then there's one in particular where I had to look up the pronunciation of certain words.
Oh, good.
And I'm sure I forgot the pronunciation because it was like 7:30 in the morning. I was half asleep when I was looking at it.
That's probably for the write-up for Nick Offerman's How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
All right, now we're on live. It's basically, Anthony, I've been doing, so my significant other, Bella, who has been on the show before, has read the list, and we were making jokes back and forth. I was joking about like how afraid I am of like, usually a lot of good stuff, but like, what if there's one that just like gets us mad? And I picked out of the air Ron Howard's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and she was like confused by that for a second. She was like, "Oh yeah," I'm like, Ron Howard. I'm like, he's made some, I don't think that one's getting in. Like maybe someday they'll do like Beautiful Mind or Apollo 13 or whatever. And she goes, he made all those. Well, he's got cameos in that. And it turns out she was thinking of Nick Offerman, not Ron Howard. And so,
as you do.
But I'm like, well, that absolutely makes sense now why you were so confused that like Nick Offerman was just taking time off from Parks and Rec to go direct a long delayed third sequel to the Da Vinci Code. That actually tracks. Anyway, let's why don't you tell us, Anthony, what the next film is? Tom, you missed your cue to do your usual aggressively yelling next. Yes. Do you not want to be as verbally abusive to Anthony? Is that a problem here? You've got too much respect for him?
I guess it's just I'm not fed up already.
Okay, that'll be later. We got 24 more to go, so let's say.
You got some time. All right, next, number 2 is Dinner at 8 from 1933.
Oh, the George Cukor film. Yeah. Okay, yeah. That's a great I don't think I've ever seen it in full, to be honest. I think I've caught like many an airing on Turner Classic, but that is like that's a pre-code comedy. So that one's very kind of in line with fuck? Yeah, pretty much. Like that's very in line with like the Trouble in Paradise, those kind of like very Ribaldi kind of comedies. Now, don't ask me who's in it. Don't ask me what it's about, other than there being a dinner. Like from what I remember,
what are we, savages?
I haven't seen it since. She, as we know, she gets too hungry for dinner at 8, and that's why the lady is a tramp. But that's neither here nor there. It's. I think, again, I haven't seen it in a long time, and I've only seen like portions. I think it's very like it's a little bit like pre-code, discreet charm of the bourgeoisie kind of thing. I think. But the George Cukor Dinner at 8. I do know that. Yeah.
Well, we'll find out when we're dead.
Yeah, we'll find out when we're dead. What is next, Anthony?
Number 3. Hang on, let me. It is.
Okay. You seem nervous. Are we getting canceled?
I don't want to say it wrong because it's. Here we go. Bohulano Family Film Collection. From the 1950s to the 1970s. I'm sure you're going to want me to read what that's all about.
You've already got the hang of this. You can already tell. Yeah, I mean, it does. I mean, it's home movies, so it feels in line with like last year's home movies from Cab Calloway, but I don't know who.
What is with the home movie shit? This is such a weird trend.
You're just mad that it's not Cab Calloway again, because you were so on board when it was Cab Calloway.
I wish they would like have it like where, I don't know, like rhyme to something. Like for this year was Cab Calloway, next year it's Tab Hunter or something. Then the next year, the home videos of Kim Hunter.
I want to clarify, Tom. I want to clarify. You want to implement a new rule where if they induct home movies, the maker of those home movies must rhyme with the name of the previous home movie. That's the rule you want in place.
Yeah, it's got to be like one of those daytime like game shows where it's like, you take two people, but it has to be the last name of the first guy has to be the first name of the second guy. Like, let's do that. Come on, let's go. Like, let's have fun if we're doing home movies.
Tom, you know that someone who works for the film registry knows we exist now, and this is what you want to put forward to them if they're listening: is rhyming schemes.
I said we're gonna die before we get to these movies. I think they're already past the like. These are academics.
Anthony, please tell us about this family's home movies. I don't know.
This is, Bohulano Family Film Collection, 1950s, 1970s. Delfin, Paderas, Bohulano, and Concepcion, Moreno, Bohulano. They're married, I guess. Recorded their family life for more than 20 years. Shot primarily in Stockton, California. Their collection documents the history of the Filipino community during a period of significant immigration. They were involved in the local Filipino-American community, including the building of Stockton's new Filipino Center in the early 1970s. The movies record community events, family gatherings, trips to New York City, Atlantic City, and Washington, D.C., as well as the family's 1967 visit to the Philippines, preserved by the Center for Asian American Media.
Okay, so I want to address a couple of things. That one that actually does sound interesting, and that reminds me a lot, Tom, of I think 2 years ago when they did the Ringling Brothers Parade film.
Yeah.
And they were like, it's not really about the circus, it's about seeing Black life on film when it hadn't been documented. And I think like Filipino American life is a really interesting thing to have a document of, because it's certainly
and this is also what we were talking about yesterday. This is like one of their like coming at it sideways thing about World War II stuff that we were talking about yesterday. Because I mean, why are Filipinos mass migrating to America in the late 40s and 50s? It's because they, entire country got bombed the fuck out during World War II.
Yeah, you have McGregor in the Philippines, you have all that. I also want to acknowledge, Anthony, the yeoman's work you're having to do on some of this in terms of like, just genuinely like, I saw the fear as you were reading it of just like, I really don't want to be like culturally insensitive. I really don't want to I want to make sure nobody thinks I'm half-assing it here. It was the tone you get. It was the tone you get when like you go to like a national park site about an atrocity and you got like the park ranger is having to be like, I want to make sure that I have like the upper tone of like, I'm putting on a show, but also this is serious. I like that. I think that was it's you're trying to thread that needle and I respect it. And
I'm trying, man.
For your sake.
He was like Randy on South Park when it's like on Wheel of Fortune, and he's like, "Oh, I think I know what this is. I don't think I should say this."
I mean, I will say, Anthony, it's. I hope for your sake. I don't know what the class is this year. I hope for your sake, this is a lighter year than last year's. Like every film that they inducted was very bleak. Remember that, Tom? Last year, how we just
it fucking sucked.
There is a moment. Folks, if you haven't heard it, go back to last year's Registry Reactions. The minute Kyle says the title Titicut Follies, Tom and I both let out an exhale of just the saddest weight. Just,
it's just like, come on, man. Like, couldn't you have put like Titicut Follies in like the year?
And it was like
all just happy-go-lucky nonsense?
And yeah, it was like Titicut Follies, and then it was like a documentary on Manzanar, and it was just nonstop.
And then House Party.
Yeah, then House Party from 1990, which ruled. The joy we felt. Anyway, so no, that does sound interesting. I agree. That does, and I like the opportunity to kind of treat film, right, and the preservation film. It doesn't have to just be big studio stuff. It doesn't just have to be narratives. It's just truly an opportunity to see life on film. I think that's great. What's next after that one?
Next we have Helen Keller in Her Story, 1954.
Oh, you know what? I've actually seen this. Wow. I probably would have never expected that. This is a documentary, and it won
I must have seen this. I mean, I know we did a lot of Helen Keller stuff. Like Helen Keller was a big thing in school when we were younger. And I swear to God, if they put this in because of the goddamn TikTok trend of people saying Helen Keller wasn't real, that's got to be the funniest shit in the world.
Can I tell you, Tom? I'm not joking. I'm 90% sure that TikTok trend uses footage from this movie. So Helen Keller in her story, which I think is also called something else. I think there's another title for it that's like The Undefeated or something. All I know is it won the Oscar for documentary in the 50s. And I saw it when it was like the height of quarantine, and I was just going through all the Oscar winners, right? I did all the best pictures. The Unconquered. Thank you. It actually has footage of Helen Keller like at the time. And I mean like in present day. So like you see modern, in 1950s Helen Keller as an older person, it is, as the title says, it's Helen Keller in her story, right? And having watched the documentaries that preceded it, you do feel like beyond just getting to see a historical figure like that, right? And not kind of as we would see actors play her in like the Miracle Worker things, but seeing the actual Helen Keller, there's also an element of like, you do feel like this is a little different than the documentaries that came before, right? It's not just like archival footage and then a creaky voice going, "She learned to talk with her hand," like that. It's a well done documentary, and I think it's pretty easy to watch. Like I think I rented it on Amazon, so it's available. But yeah, I do think, like you said, Tom, that TikTok trend might genuinely be like I think people were using footage from it. What is it? Yeah. If you don't mind, Anthony, what's the paragraph for that? I want to know what they say. If that's all right.
No, you're good. Let's see.
Sorry, Com, I didn't mean to cut you off. I didn't realize you were.
No, it's just I was just imagining someone at the registry, just their head in their hands, just going, they don't believe she's real. What are we doing?
I hope there's one person on the board who's like everybody else shows up, like Leonard Maltin and all them show up, and they're just like, let me tell you about my favorite movies. And there's one person whose job it is to monitor like what the young people are doing. And they have
someone with their kid has a kid, and they're just like, you're never gonna believe what my kid fucking told me today.
I don't want them to have. I want it to just be their job. I want there to be one person in the government whose job it is to just check what's trending and go, for God's sake. So what's the paragraph for this one, Anthony? I want to hear.
Nancy Hamilton's Academy Award-winning documentary tells the story of Helen Keller from her birth to early 70s. Keller lived for 14 more years after the film. The documentary came about long after Keller became an international speaker on behalf of both disabled rights and the United States. It uses news footage, photographs, interviews, and original sequences to tell her story, as well as a more day-in-the-life approach.
Yeah, that I remember. That's actually a cool one. That's worth checking out. Again, I think it's easy to rent, but it is, and I remember it being short. I remember it being like one of those like 60-minute movies. So
this is about Helen Keller, parentheses, a real person.
Yeah. So cool. What's next, Anthony?
Next up is Edge of the City, 1957.
I have no idea.
It sounds like it's somewhere in the back of my brain, but no, I don't know.
There's some recognizable names in this. Would you like me to read?
Yeah, please. I don't know what that is. It's a drama?
Is it like a noir or something?
Psychological drama. Edge of the City features superb performances by John Cassavetes and Sidney Poitier in a psychological drama set among New York City railroad workers. Based on a live television drama written expressly for Poitier by Robert Allen Arthur? Hang on, I'm sorry. I got it. Tommy will get this. And maybe you might too. But the way this last name is spelled, it sounds like the way that
Arthur?
Yeah.
I got a plan.
It sounds like Dutch in Red Dead Redemption 2. Because it's spelled Aurthur.
Arthur? I've
I
got
got
a plan.
Sorry for the aside. Anyway, by Robert Allen Orther, Edge of the City follows Cassavetes as a troubled army deserter who finds trust in others, maturity in himself, and reintegration into society after Poitier, played by Stevedore Foreman? Stevedore Foreman? Is that a thing? Steve Dorr Foreman?
I mean, I assume it's a thing. They
Stevedore.
wrote it.
Okay, whatever.
No,
sorry.
I know, Stevedore. I've heard. Yeah, I've heard.
Okay,
that.
Stephen Dorr Foreman befriends him. Praised by the NAACP for its message of racial brotherhood, this first feature of blacklisted television director Martin Ritt offers finely delineated performances by Ruby Dee, Kathleen McGuire, and Jack Warden. Critic Stanley Crouch called the film one of the highest of the high points in Poitier's career, noting an almost heartbreaking effect in his absolute freedom from the stereotypic, moving with such vitality through so many more moods than would be expected of a black character then or now.
You know why it was probably like in my brain somewhere, like tickling me?
I was going to say, how do you
They
not
probably-
know this?
No, but you know what? It's probably mentioned in Pictures at a Revolution.
I bet. Like, this is, I mean, I'm surprised I've never heard of this one, right? It sounds like a movie you'd hear
it's
talk
probably
about,
a movie
but
it's probably something hard to find. That's probably the problem.
especially John Cassavetes, Sidney Poitier. Like, that plot description sounds like a movie that you not only have seen, you own and watch regularly. So I'm surprised we don't know.
I know that's honestly probably a hard movie to find. It's probably not streaming anywhere because the promised dream of everything will be on streaming. No, it's not. Not even Warner Brothers things are on Warner Brothers streaming anymore. Watch the DC Universe on Netflix, folks. Yeah, that makes sense, assholes.
Real quick,
yeah,
Andrew,
I want to watch this shit. I want to watch this really good. Yeah.
Not to question anything, but somebody who is watching, like, Anthony, did we skip over one? Somebody said we might have skipped over one. Ahead of Edge of the City.
Oh my God, yeah, we did. Very important.
Okay. We did? Okay. No, I just got somebody who was like, "Oh, are you skipping one?" And I'm like, "Bro, I don't know what's going on." Because
someone's watching this shit. What
Tom,
you doing?
Tom, there are several people watching. One person who has commented, who I don't know, I'm checking on my phone, who says they are waiting for Brazilian movies and Latin cinema to get in. I should point out, thus far, the National Film Registry has only ever inducted American release films. I do think that's one of their criteria. But if you are looking for films from other countries, I do believe that there are other countries out there that have their own kind of film registries. I don't know about Brazil. I know other countries like Latvia and so on.
Controversial opinion. There are other countries.
There are other countries. Anthony, what did we skip? You said this is an important one. Was this
Lady and the Tramp?
What?
Lady and the Tramp.
Like the Disney Lady and the Tramp. Oh shit!
Hey, look at that. You got your Disney in.
I got my Disney. Not only that, this is one of the ones that I submitted.
You picked it. Yeah, you picked
So we got one in this season. I'm happy about that.
Nice.
Lady, well, I mean, we don't need to. I don't need the paragraph for Lady and the Tramp. Thankfully, I do know this one.
That's actually why I skipped it, because I was like, oh, I'm sure Mike's going to go off on this one, but then I just forgot to read it. First day of the job, don't kill me.
No. What if all of a sudden we found out, like, we look in the chat and like they've all turned on Anthony aggressively?
It's fine.
What if they're just like you're like listen, I'm not here permanently.
Why is this guy talking about video games?
What if it's wait, Tom? What if it's the opposite? What if they're all just like, this is the real juice? Get rid of the other guys.
Kyle, we just mutinied Kyle.
Speaking of, I'm not joking. In the chat right now, as I read this, is Kyle chimed in the chat to say congrats, Mike. So Kyle, we're so glad you're watching. We're so glad. Lady and the Tramp, that is terrific. I submitted that, I think, at the end of our Ninochka episode. It is absolutely one of Disney's best. It's an impressive film, even as an adult, to watch, because I do think, like, one of the things to think about with Lady and the Tramp, I think, especially in the wake of let's just say maybe some of their more recent animated releases have been very convoluted. Lady and the Tramp is remarkably simple, right? Like that is as spare a movie as you can get. And it's just tiny, tender moments. And it really just comes from a place of not like, well, let's use dogs as a metaphor. It's just like, no, these two dogs are going to fall in love. It's going to be a class.
You know what?
thing.
I think this movie would have gotten a lot sooner if at the end one of the dogs looked to the camera and said, "Truly, we need to create a Zootopia."
Okay, good, Tom. Good bit. I'm glad you landed that.
But it's funny because you say the simplicity thing, and it like even into like the '90s Renaissance things. Like you even Lion King's simple.
Well,
Aladdin's simple.
I mean, but even those, right? Like,
I mean, yeah, they're more complicated than this, but that's
like Lion King in particular is like Jeffrey Katzenberg came in with that pitch of like, well, it's going to be about this struggle for a son to find his identity and so on and so forth. You know, those came from a place because they needed to, right? Those came from a place of the Disney movies had gotten too much by like the 80s. They had gotten too much surface level, like, I don't know, cute animals, kids, they'll be happy, right? You know, this Lady and the Tramp is one of those things where it really does feel like it's right in the pocket in between, like, this is 55. Cinderella is 1950. Sleeping Beauty is 1959. And right in the middle are these kind of like, well, let's just try stuff. You know, like you look at those films in the 50s and they're not all, you know, the totemic princess films they try and make them now. Lady and the Tramp, it's a simple film. And yet the fact of the matter is, you know, you see a lot of people online do like their animation is cinema nonsense, you know, which of course it is, but like the people who say that are often like just trying to say that about like their favorite popcorn blockbuster. It's often hard for moments in an animated film to reach the same level of iconic as like King Kong on the Empire State Building, but I think it's fair to say the brilliance of the Bella Notte sequence, the spaghetti kiss, is just one of those things that like it has entered into the lexicon, right? Well, it is one of the most iconic film images.
I think it's because it's part of a thing we've discussed on the show, which is that once like Fantasia and stuff kind of failed, animation in this country at least kind of just became one thing. And outside of Disney, if anyone else did it, it kind of became just content. And even when Disney died, it kind of just became, well, we got to make animated movies, so whatever, throw something together. And you kind of just lost the artistry, because if you go to the other country stuff, I mean, shit, you just saw it yesterday, Boy and the Heron.
Yeah.
There's some, I mean, that's not a movie that gets made in America, because, you know, animated movies in America can only really be one thing. But there's some images in that movie where it's just like, hey, we're going to take the time to not just crank out some bullshit images, even though there are cute animals. Fuck the parakeets, but I like the little Kirby guys that just float into the air. Miyazaki loves his little guys. But like, I think it's kind of a thing like where they're kind of inducting it because Disney is important to the history of cinema as an animated studio, but like kind of getting into the thing of, oh, maybe if things were different, you know, animation wouldn't just be in America. We're just chasing Disney.
Yeah, but to that point, like what Lady and the Tramp manages to do on the Tramp is, like I said, that spaghetti scene transcends that, right? Like even if you are an adult, right?
Because they're still trying is basically the thing I'm getting at.
I hear you. I'm just saying, like, even now, right? Even now, if you are a cynical adult, anything, you watch that sequence and it is the simplicity of it. And also, to their credit, you know, the amount of emotion that they can pack into these dogs, right? Like they, and that's not just true in this film, it's true in a couple. I mean, Tom, I know one of your favorite animated sequences in cinema history is when Pongo finds out that he got Pretty to pregnant. I know that is the animation of Pongo's face. Anthony, when was the last time you watched 101 Dalmatians?
Before Cruella came out.
I highly recommend you go back and only watch the scene when Pongo is informed that he's having puppies, because he makes a shocked face, a concerned face, but then they specifically animate him making a sly smirk that can only be accompanied with what you imagine is a yeah.
I think,
and it's so funny.
He's just like,
it's Yeah, it's exactly that face. It's exactly that.
It's
face.
like in Grindhouse when he goes, "I never miss."
Yeah. So, but Lady and the Tramp, like, think about it. That scene, they really do you get emotional watching it because those two dogs become a human romance, you know.
But you know what but like it's like what I'm saying with the trying thing, but it's also that he has the idea that animated movies can be for kids, but they can also be for adults too. You know, there was that big, you know, whatever on film Twitter 2 months ago when Five Nights at Freddy came out, where people were saying, "Oh, well, it's for kids. It's supposed to be dumber than dog shit." And people go, "Yeah, but like, there are good kids movies, you know that, right?" And you just have to point to a movie like Lady and the Tramp, where Walt had the idea of like, kids aren't dumb. We can't show them, you know, fucking Stallo or anything, but like, we can treat them with the respect that they deserve as human beings that are just slightly below in maturity than most grown-ups, let's be honest. So yeah, I think that's kind of, well, one, like we said, it's the 100th.
Yeah,
this is a better honorary mention of Disney's anniversary than Wish. Because even if you give it 1.5 stars on Letterboxd, there's no chance that movie's good.
That it is a fascinating thing to bear witness to. Next. So, well, technically next because it was Lady and the Tramp is 55, and then what was? Remind me again. The Cassavetes Poitiers film, Edge of the City. Again, that is really like, why don't we know that?
I'm literally just gonna I'm gonna try to like even find it. Like, Anthony, continue. I'm gonna
continue.
Next up is We're Alive from 1974.
Nope.
No.
We're Alive. 1974. In 1974, 3 female UCLA graduate students, Mitchie Gleason, Christine Lesiak, and Kathy Levitt, led a video workshop at the California Institution for Women, then the largest women's prison in the U.S. What? Run-on sentence much? What emerged from 6 months of
correcting the grammar of Congress?
I mean, I don't know. You read this sentence and you tell me if it makes sense. What emerged from 6 months of roundtable discussions taped by the incarcerated participants is We're Alive, a 49-minute documentary of astonishing power. Simultaneously anonymous and intimate, the women are unsparing in their condemnation. I'm realizing I can't read. This is illuminating. Condemnation of the dehumanization of the carceral state, while at the same time exemplifying a triumphal dignity, alive indeed, in parentheses. The film is a blueprint for prison reform and thus, unfortunately, as timely today as it was then. Digitally restored by the UCLA Film and Television Archive. Funding provided by the Columbian Motion. And do I need to read all that? I don't think so. All right.
Listen, you said the word carceral correct. So
you say carceral correct.
You're not completely.
I listen. We will talk about the film in a second. I do want to acknowledge. I do like the idea that Anthony has started taking pot shots at the Library of Congress. I want to imagine like next year he gets audited and the person just walks into the room and he's like, "Wait, why am I here?" And they go, "Tell us about run-on sentences, buddy. Tell us about you got some problems, got some issues here." No, that I will say that sounds genuinely fascinating. Like every once in a while. And Tom, you know this from our years of doing this. Like every once in a while, you get a document. Like they'll mention a documentary where you're like, "Oh, that I kind of need to watch that." It is fascinating because like we've certainly gotten a number of films in the registry that tackle incarceration, but I feel like until he was reading that description, I really didn't think about like how few films, documentary or narrative, with any sincerity, tackle women's prisons, right? Like I feel like
that does feel like a topic even today that's kind of just not talked about. It seems like we talk about male prisons, which I mean, listen, that's, you know, obviously we need to talk about that. Shit's fucked up, but like it seems like we do tend to forget. No, yes, women go to prison too.
And if it does get talked about, it's either done as like a trashy exploitation film, right?
Yeah,
It's done like
Roger Corman watched this movie,
like
and
a
he was like,
caged.
"I got an idea."
That's what I'm saying, like a caged heat kind of thing, or it's an Orange is the New Black scenario where it's like, wouldn't it be funny if this upper crust person goes to prison and he meets, and it's like, no, this sound, especially 19, what would you say, 74, Anthony?
You
You said the 70s, I think.
Yeah, hang on, sorry. 74, yes, correct.
74, yeah. So this is, I mean, that's Attica has just happened fairly recently, right? And last year they inducted the Attica documentary from 72, something like that. So this is a different look at that, and it's honestly kind of I think it's great that this gets inducted. I mean, I haven't seen it, but I think it's great that it gets inducted because it's going to get eyes on it, and this feels like the kind of thing that like people today will be fascinated in seeing, especially from that period. Like 74 is a very specific time in America and a very difficult time. So you have to imagine that's going to be not an easy watch, but yeah, I think that sounds really interesting. So
yeah. Also, before we move on, Edge of the City is available on DVD in there's like 2 Sidney Poitier kind of collections that are available. Still, obviously, they have to be by secondhand. It's also streaming on DirecTV. Okay. And you can rent it and buy it on like Apple TV or Amazon or YouTube. So it's available, but not in the easiest ways.
Yeah.
So that's why we haven't seen it or heard of it.
So what is up after We're Alive?
Cruisin J-Town.
Oh my God. Oh my goodness. The heart attack I nearly had when the brief, Anthony, I need you to understand the brief window between when you said cruisin' and I don't remember what the second word was, but for the brief second when I thought it was the William Friedkin Al Pacino movie,
Cruisin'?
the fear I just felt.
No, it's Cruisin J-Town.
Cruisin J-Town?
J as in Jared. From 1975.
Okay.
Here we go.
I have no
documentary
idea
about like gay lives or something.
Yeah.
No, not at all, actually. No? Dwayne Kubo's documentary tells the story of the jazz fusion band Hiroshima.
Oh, I know Hiroshima. Yeah.
Including their attempts to blend art and identity, the group's roots and influence in the Little Tokyo section of Los Angeles, and the burgeoning pulse of the Asian American and Pacific Islander community in the early 1970s. A highlight in the film is a cross-cultural jam with Hiroshima and the Chicano Performing Arts Company, El Teatro Campesino.
The fucked up thing is your dad has probably seen this, Anthony.
I mean, he's definitely heard of Hiroshima.
Yeah, that sounds dope as hell. I
haven't even heard of them.
That sounds really good. Yeah. Cool.
Shame we're gonna be dead.
I mean, again, Tom, and I said this last time, and I've said it before. You can watch these movies outside of the context of this show,
but I'm not going to.
You do this thing where, like, if a movie gets in the registry, you then decide, well, now it gets on a list of don't watch it until it's work, which you don't have to do.
But I'm going to.
You are the only person for whom getting it in the National Film Registry makes it less likely you'll watch it. You are the only person for whom that's true.
You know what I watched before we got on this? The Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. That's what I'm doing. That's my life. That's me, baby.
What is the
Kill me now.
Common music tastes.
So that sounds.
I'm going on you, bro, for a second. He doesn't like the Beatles.
Oh, I know.
So there's no chance he's going to watch Cruisin J-Town about a jazz fusion band. So give him a break. But also, you don't like the Beatles, you freak.
I know I'm a freak. I don't act like an authority on this shit.
I know.
Listen, no, here's what I love about this is that every other thing that has had to be read, Anthony has read kind of academically and just been like, yeah, I guess that sounds cool. And now that Anthony's aware of Cruisin J-Town, the way you the tone in your voice, Anthony, sounded like a mid 2010s like Williamsburg hipster describing a Pitchfork review where you're just like, I mean, he's not gonna listen to Cruisin J-Town with Hiroshima. like there should be a PBR in your hand as you describe that now. You're close. You're close. It's a seltzer.
It's not a LaCroix. But...
No, that's just a sign that we're in our 30s. You know, yeah. Cruisin J-Town. I think that might be bumped to the top of my list. I'm fascinated by that now. Dope. Cruisin J-Town.
Cruisin J-Town.
Hell yeah. What's
All
next?
Right. This one I'm going to butcher. I'm sorry to any Spanish speakers out there. Alambrista from 1977.
Oh, I've never seen it. I do not know what it's about, but I know it because that's in the Criterion Collection.
I've heard that name, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but so
okay. Alambrista. Yeah, read us the paragraph there.
Alambrista is the powerfully emotional story of Roberto, a Mexican national working as a migrant laborer in the United States to send money back to his wife and newborn. Director Robert M. Young's sensitive screenplay refuses to indulge in simplistic pieties, presenting us with a world in which exploitation and compassion coexist in equal measure. The film immerses us in Roberto's world as he moves across vast landscapes, meeting people he can't be sure are friend or threat, staying one step ahead of immigration officials. Alambrista is as relevant today as it was on its 1977 release, a testament to its enduring humanity.
That sounds very interesting. I'm certainly on board for that. And again, I know it has a Criterion, so I know I've seen the title. But
yeah, I've seen the titles, yeah, so...
And I mean, it certainly sounds like something we'd enjoy. So, well, not enjoy, like kick back and have a fun laugh, but you know, one of those films that would be really fun to dig into. So that certainly sounds interesting. I'm not super familiar with it, but I'm certainly interested in checking it out. That feels akin to like, last year, Tom, it was Ballad of Gregorio Cortez was one of those where like,
yeah,
they inducted it and we were like both, oh, I know the title, I know it got a Criterion, and then after hearing the description, being much more interested in checking it out. So,
yeah, I mean, that's something I would see even without the registry. So,
yeah,
good job, guys. Next,
what's next?
Passing Through, 1977.
Is that one of the LA Rebellion films? I think that's like, it's not Heli Garima. It's
this guy. He's good. This guy.
Oh, really? It is? Okay, so
that's
but
exactly
it's not,
what it is.
It's not Heli Garima, right? It's
Larry Clark.
Larry Clark. Yes, thank you. Okay, this one. Yeah, this is like, I've never seen it because I think it is impossible to see. Like, I feel like it's one of those. Well, you remember when we were doing Killer of Sheep a couple seasons ago, we were talking about like Killer of Sheep was so hard to see for ages, and Sankofa was hard to see. So I know of Passing Through, and it has something to do with jazz, right? It's like a jazz
laying on the jazz films.
Okay, yeah. Why don't you just read the paragraph, because I don't know enough about it if that's okay, or does this have more chemistry equations in it?
No. This is words I can read. A key figure in the LA Rebellion film movement, director Larry Clark uses Passing Through as a rumination on the central importance of jazz in African American culture and the attempts of others to appropriate this legacy for profit. Released from prison, an African American jazz artist refused to rejoin the music industry he feels is controlled by white mobsters and corporate interests. Instead, he seeks to find his grandfather and musician mentor in order to preserve his artistic legacy, integrity, and rediscover the creative and social possibilities of jazz. In a 2023 interview with the British Film Institute, Clark said, "Jazz is the sum total of the Black American experience. It is an expression of our history here in the United States. Rarely seen, but of seminal importance, Passing Through ranks near the top of one of the greatest jazz films."
So, Tom, it's a jazz film about duking it out with white mobsters. You on board?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, seems like you should be there. Seems like that's all you need. interesting about the jazz thing, because you're right. You got Cruisin J-Town with the jazz fusion. I'm never going to stop enjoying saying that title now. You got Cruisin J-Town. And last year, if you remember, Tom, they inducted Mingus, the 68 Charlie Mingus documentary where he is basically being filmed wandering. Hey, Anthony, I'll ask you this. Anthony, have you ever seen Mingus from 1968?
I have not, but I am very familiar with his music.
Oh, you are going to love this. It is mostly, it's during the time period where Mingus is getting like evicted from his apartment. And it's mostly just a camera filming him as he goes on rants. And at one point, he's literally just wandering around the apartment, ranting about, I don't remember what, starts like hitting keys on a piano, and then all of a sudden just picks up a gun and just starts like showing off his rifle.
Those guys,
yeah.
Those guys were all just out of their minds.
Yeah.
Like him, Charlie Parker.
Yeah. Look up Mingus, and I would say look up Passing Through, but I'm pretty sure it's like one film reel locked in some college archive. So if that's not true, and if anybody knows where to find it, email me.
You got 30 years.
Reach out to me. Okay. What is next up after Passing Through?
Passing Through, we have Fame from 1980.
Oh, like Fame.
Fame.
You said Fame, and like immediately I was like, well, it can't be that. It's got to be some silent. No, 1980. So like, I'm gonna live that Fame. Yeah,
I guess so. Never seen it.
Oh yeah, Fame. I'm gonna live forever.
That's a choice.
Well, it's an iconic film. Alan Parker, and I think it's probably the only. Well, maybe not the only Alan Parker we get in the registry. They might do like a Mississippi Burning, or Midnight Express. He also did. Right. Alan Parker's got a weird career. Did The Commitments, Bugsy Malone. Weird career on Alan Parker. Pink Floyd's The Wall. That was him too. Yeah, Fame is that's cool. I dig that. I mean, it's a fun watch. It's also, 80s New York, which is not quite as covered in film as 70s New York.
I actually have somewhat of a personal stake in this because my father went to the high school that this is based on.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
My father was a young thespian.
Wow.
So he went to the New York City High School Performing Arts, and I didn't realize that they did anything based on that. And the 70s.
So you know what? I want to put this out there, Anthony. Standing offer now.
Mm-hmm.
In 30 years, when we are covering this film, your dad has that guest spot if he wants it. Okay? Let him know.
I mean, his head might be in a jar like in Futurama, but we'll see how it goes.
It's okay. I'm planning on mine going there too, so it's fine. We'll go back and forth with our little Stephen Hawking talk boxes. It'll be great.
I'm gonna be in the trash. It's fine.
No, Fame. Yeah. Okay. That's pretty interesting. It is definitely a noteworthy film of the time. I'm fascinated in terms of like, I feel like, and I have nothing against Fame, right? I do like the film. But I'm trying to think of like, I feel like in terms of 80s New York movies, like I feel like I would go with like a Desperately Seeking Susan more than a like.
But
Fame,
what year was this again? Did you say
1980 is Fame?
So that's not even 80s New York. It's still 70s New York.
Yeah.
So that's a weird pick, man.
I mean,
that's like not to like shit on it. Have you
seen it?
Yeah, but so I mean, it's been a bit, but like, not to shit on it or anything, but it's just one of those picks where you go, Fame.
No, I mean,
it's like you're trying to honor Alan Parker because didn't he die this year or last year or something? He died recently.
I think last year, fairly recently.
So like, if you're gonna honor Alan Parker with something, it's like you don't go with The Wall or The Commitments.
Are those American films? I think Commitments is just like fully Irish, isn't it? Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway,
I don't know. It's weird. That's a weird pick because it's not like with House Party where you go, okay, you get it, and it still has a cultural footprint with the remake coming out and everything.
Fame had a fairly recent remake, and that still has a footprint. It's just like
it did.
Yeah. Now, Tom, here's the thing you're forgetting, right? Fame is a theater kid movie, right? Like Fame is a.
I know, but we shouldn't be giving them anything.
Anthony, what's next?
I feel like you looked at this list, dude.
What do you mean?
Because Desperately Seeking Susan is next.
You serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not fucking around. I swear to God.
What?
It's the next one on here.
I guess 80s New York is a thing. They're like,
Well, we got 70s New York down. Let's do 80s New York now. I hope whoever works at the film registry talks like an old-timey fucking Hollywood producer guy.
That's so... I'm
Yeah, it's
sorry.
great.
I just love... Really? Like that's
I
and
swear
it's
to God, dude, I'm not fucking with
and
you.
it's like it's the next one on the list too. It's not even like
Literally,
you didn't skip any.
no. Fame,
It
1980.
goes Fame
Desperately
to Desperately Seeking Susan.
1985.
That's so fucking weird. It's only because I was having a conversation recently about like I'm not going to get too into the weeds with it because there are people watching for some reason. But like it was my partner and I went to like the Tenement Museum in Lower East Side, and that opened in 1988, and we were kind of talking about like New York in the 80s and how it's such a weird time because it's like, you know, you don't see New York in the 80s kind of brought up the same way because the 80s was really that time where like rent was, you know, it was super cheap. The city was kind of felt like it was falling apart. But as our tour guide pointed out, Madonna was able to move to New York because the rent was so cheap, and she became kind of this local icon, and her fashion sense and everything was so interesting. And Desperately Seeking Susan comes out of that. So I've had that on the brain, you know.
And it's you're talking about all that, why it feels like 80s New York is not as prevalent with stuff, even though it still kind of was what it was in the 70s.
Yeah.
Which is like what the Deuce, you know, I'm on season 3 of the Deuce, which jumps to 84, and they're like, it's still the same, but the process in the government is starting to push things out. It like that's when the process starts. And that book I read, Fun City Cinema, about New York and film, goes through every decade and talks about movies and whatever. And each decade has a movie he deems the movie of that New York cinema decade. And for the 80s, it's Wall Street, because that's what kind of is. It's still like the 70s, but it starts pushing towards the money guys and the Wall Street bros and the finance. And that's when the city starts turning into what we've got now.
Well, I mean, I remember watching, this is going to make me sound like the most generic film bro guy, but there's a great clip in Hypernormalization, the Adam Curtis documentary, that talks about, it's Patti Smith talking about how New York changed from the 70s to the 80s. And like in the 70s, yeah, the city was falling apart and it was a bunch of young artists there, but they were all interested in really creating stuff, you know, and like pushing away from capitalism. And now they're all either like hooked on drugs, or they're interested in going to parties, or they're interested in making money. But Desperately Seeking Susan is I mean, that I dare say, right, like on the looks that Madonna has in Desperately Seeking Susan in the 80s are on par with like the Holly Golightly dress in Breakfast at Tiffany's, right? In terms of just like, there is just a look, it comes out of that movie and people are just trying to emulate it, right? Like all of that, those frilly bows and everything, that all comes out of that, right? Like that's just the look, you know. Desperately Seeking Susan is kind of the, you know, what Clueless is in the 90s, Desperately Seeking Susan is in the 80s, right? Even though it's like later in the 80s, like it's just like a tonal shift. That's cool. That's crazy. That's
yeah, it's interesting. And you know, female directed film gets into the registry and all of that.
Yeah.
And honestly makes more sense to me than Fame. I don't know. I'm hung up on Fame. I don't know. I'm gonna be a bitch about this for 30
well,
next.
Anthony, since I accidentally named the next film last time, I'm just gonna try it again. Let's see. This was Last Crusade. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade from 1989. Tell me this works. Tell me this works.
Incorrect.
The Phantom.
How funny would it have been if that had worked, though?
That would have been wild.
If that had worked, I think we were just done for the day, right? I think we just close up shop and okay.
Next
What's
up,
next?
The Lighted Field from 1987.
Nope.
I'm gonna guess a documentary, but what do we got, Anthony?
The Lighted Field is one of the avant-garde masterworks from Andrew Norin.
I know Andrew Norin. Okay.
Quote,
I know the name, but
quote, "I'm a light thief and a shadow bandit," Norin once said.
Yeah.
The lovers, light and shadow, and their offspring, space and time, are my themes. Working with their particularly, I thought it said peculiarities, but it's particularities, is my passion and delight. The Lighted Field is a highly personal work in which Norin uses archival imagery combined with urban and domestic images that are infused with his love of light play and evoke a twinned sense of vitality and mortality.
I mean, I've not seen it. I've not seen. I know Andrew Norin, right? He came up in a book on Stan Brakhage I was reading recently, and I read about him, but I've never seen any of his stuff. I don't know if it's easy to see. I don't know if it's like, it might be like Tom, you remember like 2 years ago they inducted one of Robert Beavers's films, but they're like, the only way to see it is to go to this one cinema screen in Greece that is allowed to play it.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen it. I mean, it certainly sounds interesting.
His name's Andrew Norin.
Yeah, Noren or In, but I think En.
Okay.
Noren.
Yeah, Andrew Norin. Yeah, I know. I think he has another. The one I remember hearing about is not this one. I remember hearing about one that's like something particles that people really seem to
particles. Because I'm on his he has a Wikipedia page. It is not very dense, and there are no links to any of his filmography. Just a list of them.
Really, Tom? You think you're saying that there's a lack of real internet scholarship on avant-garde cinema of the 70s and 80s?
You'd be surprised, man. There's other freaks like you out there that would be obsessively
this is true.
Filling out Wikipedia for guys they think everyone should know. Andrew Norin, you know Andrew Norin, right? It's like, are you on drugs? All right, next.
Also, before we move on, I just want to say somebody commented, so I want to acknowledge it. Moredoor03 said, "Sad that Stand By Me, 1986, missed out for another year." So
well,
I guess,
listen, there's always next year because Rob Reiner
is currently solving the Kennedy. Currently solving the Kennedy assassination,
and he's going to solve the Kennedy assassination on his next year.
iHeart podcast.
Next year will be the Renaissance. Stand By Me will get it next year. You know, be like, hey, good job solving Kennedy.
Well, anyway, Moredoor03, thank you for watching. We appreciate you. What's next, Anthony?
Next up is Matewan from 1980.
Yes! Yes, I got one in.
I clapped so loud that the little notification on my streamer says reducing noise.
Love that movie.
Wow. Okay.
Sales Hive, rise. So let's go.
We're gonna let Tom is gonna go. I'm gonna let him talk, but for the record, this was one of Tom's registry submissions, and this is
like
the first
season 1, right?
Yeah. This you picked it for Modern Times. That's how long ago that was. Our third ever episode, or second ever episode, one of them. And this is the first time that a Tom registry submission has made it all the way to the National Film Registry.
Wow.
Before you even talk about the film, Tom, well, yes, but that one, you were like, Blues Brothers should be in, but we hadn't submitted the list. This one, undeniably, they have it on the record that we said put it in. So before you even talk about the film, Tom, how does it feel, considering yesterday you just complained about not getting any in the registry? How does that feel?
It feels good. I say it all the time. People should listen to me more. So it would save everyone a lot of trouble. So I'm glad they listened to me. And I'm glad I was ahead of the curve, because 3 years ago I picked Matewan. And in the last year or so, we've been dick deep in a lot of union stuff.
Have there been labor issues? I thought everything was smooth sailing.
That's what, everybody tells me at the bar. Well, they, before they have to get up in 2 hours to go work at, a hospital, because nurses are getting drunk where I drink. Because, I'll stop.
I was going to say, you started that bit and then didn't know where to go with it and just kept rolling. But anyway,
because I don't want to say what I really feel about the nurses I drink with. So
talk about Matewan.
Listen, it's great. Is this the second? Is this his first or second? Because I think there's sales in.
There is a
right?
sales in. It's Return of the Secaucus 7.
Yeah.
Right?
That one I haven't seen. That
Yeah.
one I do want to see. I haven't seen every sales movie because I like to,
Yeah.
sprinkle things out. I love this movie. Is it my favorite sales movie? Because you got Lone Star and you got 8 Men Out. Fuck, that's tough. But this is a great movie. It's still timely. It's Sales is one of those guys that I don't think gets enough credit as being one of the best, not just writers, but writer directors to have ever existed. He's definitely an indie guy. He never did like a Cassavetes where he would do an indie thing, but then do like, Cassavetes made Gloria just to make money. He needed money to make, love streams.
And was also getting all those residual checks from Edge of the City, we now know.
From Edge of the City, or doing, episodes of Columbo and shit like that.
Yeah.
Sales did Corman stuff, and he would do like ghostwriting, rewriting stuff for big movies, but he was never a guy who'd put his name on big things. If he was going to write and direct something, have his name on it, he always stuck to his guns and made them cheap, but made them on his own.
Yeah.
And they never look or feel cheap. He knew how to make a fucking movie. He's a guy who learned, like all these other Corman guys, get your money, know how to use your money. And he was smart. His movies are so perfectly written, but they never feel written. It feels like you're just looking at real life. And I think this movie's great. I think everybody needs to see it. It was put in the Criterion Collection probably 4 years ago, before I picked it from Modern Times. That's why it was on my brain or whatever. But it's easy to watch, so people can definitely see it. It's not like Return of the Secaucus 7 or whatever it is, or like Limbo, one of his other movies that are kind of hard to see. Lone Star, because Lone Star's getting a Criterion next month. But Matewan, definitely see it. It's a great movie, and it's not homework. It doesn't feel like homework, which you hear a movie about unions in 1920s, whatever it is, Mississippi or Tennessee or whatever. It's gonna be like dry and home. No, it's actually like a pretty badass movie, and definitely check it out.
And before you say the next one, I just want to acknowledge Average Tunist in our chat says a missed opportunity for the Library of Congress to add Elf.
Thank you for that, asshole.
Yeah, we don't. So, Average Tunist, if you did miss the beginning, we don't know what did or didn't get in, and we're going in chronological order. So now we know that Elf didn't get in. Thank you for
I'm sorry.
your
I'm just
comment, and thank you for watching.
That's probably like a 12-year-old. I'm sorry.
Thank you for taking time out of your day in the middle of the afternoon to watch a stream.
To get called an asshole.
You put me on a live mic. This is what's going to happen.
For anyone watching, that's a great moment. I'm glad. I'm going to re-upload this with some new footage added, but I'm going to make damn sure that I zoom in on Tom actively remembering that this is live. Because you saw the moment.
Well,
what can I say?
Okay, Anthony, what is next after Matewan?
Well,
we know it's not Elf.
It's not Elf.
It's not Elf.
It's definitely a Christmas film, though.
Is it Christmas Vacation?
I did see, the only thing I saw before this is I saw a headline that said 2 Christmas classics get in the registry. And I didn't see what they were, but I saw 2 Christmas classics, so they're clearly Christmas movies. This is a Christmas movie, you say, Anthony?
Is it Home Alone?
Is it Home Alone? Wait, what?
It's Home Alone.
It's Home Alone?
Nice. That's great.
No, I'm not against it. I just I thought you were doing a bit, and like Anthony just nodded. He was like, no, it's home, like the Chris Columbus Home Alone.
You guys are
I was just thinking about Matewan. What was it? Matewan said 87. I'm like, oh, what's a Christmas movie? Because Christmas Vacation is also 87.
Yeah.
Like that. How far are they getting ahead of this or something?
I know
it's Silent Night, Deadly Night. Like it's. Not...
I know what you mean, Tom. But there was an implication in the way you went. No, Home Alone, because I was thinking, Matewan, and I'm like, every time we think about Matewan, we go, you know what this reminds me of? Home Alone. I don't think anybody's put Matewan and Home Alone in the same sentence.
Well, hey, you never know.
before.
I'm pretty sure Daniel Stern's worked with John Sayles.
That's true. That's fair. Home Alone is in the registry.
I love that. That's
yeah.
cool.
I'm not opposed to it. And like the truth be told, it is an iconic film, and I think
still gets a lot of play. Macaulay just got his Hollywood star.
That's true.
A week or two ago. You know, and Catherine O'Hara is still huge. They put, you know, that score, which honestly gives that movie like 50% of its juice. Like that John Williams score is just unreal in that movie. And there's nothing like watching two shitheads just get the shit kicked out of them by a little kid. I mean, that's just good cinema. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I agree. Also, a past guest of the show, Jay Kim, says he just opened YouTube and saw us streaming this. So, hey, Jay, if you're watching,
hey, buddy,
what's up, buddy? We'll be in touch soon about future episomes.
I just called someone an asshole. It's fine.
We're gonna get we aren't even monetized. We're gonna get so demonetized. Home Alone. No, I agree. I loved Home Alone as a kid. It was my favorite movie. So much so, I'll just share this personal anecdote because my mom loves to remind me. One time on a playground, they had one of those. Remember how our playgrounds when we were kids used to have like really dangerous stuff? Like they used to just be like, what if there's just like a metal pole on pulleys that you can just swing on, right? So they had one of these things, right? And I had like swung across, and then there was another kid who wanted to cross, and I should have gently lobbed it to him, but instead, I believe I hit him with it intentionally and yelled, "Come and get me, you moron," because that is what Kevin McAllister did in Home Alone. And that kid ran crying to his mother, who went to my mother, and my mom made that the first film that was temporarily banned in our household. Our house had its own version of like the British video nasties, where she was just like, "This is Clockwork Orange for you. You don't get to see it. Like, we just can't allow this."
Did you play Grand Theft Auto growing up?
Did what?
Did you ever play Grand Theft Auto growing up?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
It is funny to think about, though, that like,
well,
that kids did just get to watch a movie where like it's basically like Frodo like Hostel or whatever.
Yeah,
like
it's like Home Alone really is the last vestiges of like 80s kids films, because like anytime you watch an 80s kids movie that's like beloved, you go, oh, this has a lot of stuff that probably shouldn't be for children. Right? Like everybody loves the Goonies, and they always forget there's a scene where Corey Feldman decides to antagonize the Spanish-speaking maid by saying, like, in the basement, we keep cocaine and prostitutes. And you're like, what? Why is this in a children's movie?
Like, because that might have just actually been Corey Feldman admitting something on camera.
But with Home Alone, like, yeah, it's the last vestiges of that. Really just like, I don't know, kids can watch this, right? And it's kind of, it's Looney Tunesy, but in the best way. And it is one of those things where it is the kind of movie that you think about and you're like, what an ingenious premise, right?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
what
it's a great movie. And I remember watching it maybe a year or two ago at some point when I got the 4K disc. I just remember watching it being like, this is kind of like, you know, it's not high art or anything, but it's got the kind of script that should be studied at like film schools, because it's just so basic, just like set up, payoff with the simple themes and simple characteristics, and everything just like rolls together kind of in a perfect package. Almost like, I don't know, like Zemeckis in the 80s, like, but like kind of like lesser tier, like, but it's
or even on par with like the films we've talked about in the show a lot, like a lot of the comedies that we do, the old screwball comedies, right? Really just came from the place of like, okay, we're going to come up with a premise. What are the 15 different things we can do with this premise, right? Mr. Blandings built his dream house, Bringing Up Baby, you know, these kind of classic
and
screwball comedies.
It's just, you know, it's simple. And yeah, I think, you know, maybe hot take, I don't know. Probably not with Mike, but in the larger audience. Best thing that John Hughes has been involved in.
Why would that not be my take? Do you think I'm
saying not a hot take for you.
Right. Okay, gotcha.
But for everyone else, this would be a hot take because we don't like John Hughes.
I like John Hughes. okay. I think
We
we
don't
are
hate
also
him.
no. I think you and I are both like deeply colored by the annoying John Hughes overly long tribute on the Oscars one year that
No,
we
but I
still
also
think
just-
about.
But I also just want to be like, all right, I like Ferris Bueller because
Yeah.
it's about a little stinker. But then, like, 16 Candles and Pretty in Pink, I'm just like, this shit's weird.
I like
I don't
Pretty
like
in
this.
I like Pretty in Pink, but I also haven't revisited Pretty in Pink
I like
because
I
I
like
know that
Harry
I
Dean
don't.
Stanton.
I'm afraid.
I like Harry Dean Stanton in Pretty in Pink. Just what if Harry Dean Stanton from any other movie and he's just sad, dirty Harry Dean Stanton is just wandering around this bubbly high school movie and he's just like, yeah, my wife left me. I don't think I'm gonna work anymore. He's just like, this is awesome. I want to watch this.
What is
Next.
What's next after Home
Is it
Alone?
another
So
Christmas movie?
we're now into the 90s. These are all movies that have come out in our lifetime. So that's interesting.
Unless they take a big leap. Into
That's
the
true. That's true.
2000s.
That we could be right in the 2000s, but there's so many movies left to do.
Yeah, what number are you up to?
Two,
Don't make him count.
6,
We've already made him
Carceral.
16. We're up to 16.
16. Okay,
Oh,
so
we're
there's like
we're
9
more than
more to
halfway
go.
through. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, what is the next film?
Queen of Diamonds from 1991.
I don't know anything about it. This sounds vaguely familiar, right? It sounds like something that I've definitely come across, but I've probably like looked at it on Letterboxd and added it to a watch list and don't remember anything about it, but the title sounds familiar.
Queen of Diamonds. This landmark work by experimental filmmaker Nina Menkes was filmed on location in Las Vegas. Menkes' sister and collaborator Tinka plays an alienated blackjack dealer living and working in Sin City. The film takes a close look at the desolation of daytime Vegas, contrasting the lights, noise, and life of the city to the quiet, lonely reality of its residents. Nina expresses her unique style through the use of long takes and extended periods of silence to convey her character's solitary life in the Nevada desert.
Yeah, that does sound familiar. 'Cause I think I saw something. Again, I truly believe this was a case of like I saw it on Letterboxd once and added it to my watch list and have forgotten to ever check my watch list to find things to watch. But yeah, I remember seeing that was interesting. I think somebody said it was like it's kind of Chantal Ackerman-y, kind of, Speaking of which, by the way, weirdly fitting for National Film Registry. I don't know if you guys noticed, Agnes Varda is the Google Doodle for today, which I think is nice. But yeah, no, that sounds interesting. It's like, so bleak, basically like, what if Casino movie sad? And I'm not saying that to be reductive. I'm saying that in terms of just like, right, there is an inherent sadness to casinos in that entire scene that like you rarely see on film. Like, I mean, that was kind of what was cool about, even, I know it's a dumb comparison, but like, even just like Poker Face starting out with like Natasha Lyonne being like, yeah, this sucks. This job sucks. It's just this is a miserable life.
We work here, but like you go 5 minutes outside of the city and it's just trailer parks and rundown homes and everything sucks. And that's like whenever we're on the East Coast, so like whenever we go to Atlantic City or whatever, and it's just like driving an hour through the fucking boonies, and then it's like, and here's a mile strip of just losing your money. It's like, great, awesome. Where are the whores? Like, I mean, that's really like, it's just that's like, I don't know. It's like the emperor in his new clothes. It's like, look at all this great shiny shit, but like you look a little deeper and it's just the seedy underbelly of America writ large. It's, it sucks. It sucks. I don't know. Next.
Yeah. What's next? That does sound interesting though. I should check that out.
Next is Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Cool.
Hell yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
You know what it is? Can I say what it is? Is that, Anthony, and this is not saying keep
Coming
doing what
right
you're doing. But not only that, keep doing what you're doing. But it's like when Kyle has done it in the past, like it's like he's opening an Oscar envelope, right? It's always like from 1991.
Oh, okay.
Terminator 2. No. I'm saying it's just funnier that you're just like that you were just casual like next Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and so we have to like take a beat to process because we're so used to like the title being read.
I can build it up if you want.
No, I'm not saying changing. I'm saying like
No.
We're so used to the title being read and us having like the anticipation that when you're just like, yeah, next up, Terminator 2 Judgment Day that like you see on both Tom and I's face, like, oh, okay. Yeah, Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Hey, we are in Cameron's world again.
Yeah, 100%. Like that is one of those ones that has been on my long list of like, I have a running list of like should be in the registry that I kind of refer to when we're coming up with the registry.
Crazy.
That's been on there for a while.
Crazy that it hasn't been.
Just for the visual effects alone, right? Like just
it was a landmark because this was before Jurassic Park, which gets a lot of the CGI buzz. But this was I mean, I know The Abyss was kind of the one where he tested it out, but Terminator 2 was the first time where it's like, oh, we can do this now.
Yeah.
And people will respond to it if you know how to use it.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, it is definite. And it's also a thing of like, you know, there's two types of blockbusters, right? Or I shouldn't say there's two types. There's three types of blockbusters. There's the ones that are timeless. There are the ones that are dated and aged terribly. And then there are the ones that are dated in the best way. You know what I mean? Where they just fully represent their time. Terminator 2 Judgment Day is absolutely that last category where like there is nothing about it that doesn't scream like early 1990s.
Oh,
you know,
him getting the biker outfit to Bad to the Bone. John, you know, being obsessed with Guns N' Roses. Guns N' Roses being on the soundtrack. I mean, just,
like it's anytime I watch Terminator 2, I feel like I need to go down to my local comic shop and get the new Rob Liefeld cover. You know what I mean? Like it's very much like in that era. All of the slang and everything. It's like he added Bart Simpson to the Terminator. Yeah, and I've never been. I don't know how I put it. Like as a kid, I think obviously like as a child, you love Terminator 2 because everybody loves Terminator 2. I think as I got older, I've always been more a fan of 1 than 2, but good Lord, there are moments in Terminator 2 that are just unbeaten to this day.
I'm kind of the opinion that I think they're both equal. I think the thing that keeps Terminator 2 from going above 1 is Edward Furlong. I think if they aged John Connor up and got someone that was maybe 17, you know, it's funny because he ends up in the franchise. But if you got like Christian Bale, in '91, like right after Newsies or whatever, someone that's not as like whiny and if I don't know,
I feel you. It's
because I don't think the thematic stuff that's going on with him, with Arnold and John, is bad. I actually like this as it's written and the way it builds up and plays over the movie. But just Edward Furlong, like he's a kid, so like you can't even blame him. It's like being mad at Jake Lloyd or whatever. It's not his fault. And he was going through puberty during the movie, so they have to like ADR his dialogue because his voice is screeching. But it's just I think the character's too young for that shit. I don't know, but
it's
great. It's great.
But
I'm glad it's in there.
Yeah, even the John Connor of it all is what keeps it in its time, and I think in a fascinating way, right? Like it is a thing that like I would never say anything in that movie has aged poorly. It is just even the stuff you could criticize about it is just a product of its time. So I think that it is 1991,
and
it's still one of the high watermarks for blockbuster filmmaking. Like to this day, people still refer to it. They still riff on it.
I mean, this is the start of Cameron, where every movie he makes becomes the highest budgeted movie of all time.
Yeah,
and then it's the biggest budget, highest grossing movie ever made. Bigger budget, highest grossing movie ever made.
Yeah.
It's you just go, all right, dude. Like, what the fuck? How are you making this alchemy work? But
cool.
Crazy.
Cool that it's in though. Very cool that it's in.
Next.
Yeah. What's next?
Next. Another Christmas film or Halloween film, depending on.
Nightmare Before
What?
Christmas.
Really?
There he is. That is correct.
Oh, that rules.
Wow.
So 2 Disney films this year. Even though this one's a Touchstone and also a Tim Burton, it's not a Tim Burton. Weird thing. That good. You know, like that's one of those ones. I mean, there's no denying it's permeated the culture now. You know, like it was a cult success in its day, but like I think it is one of those movies where its cult success has now rolled it into the realm of like absolute classic. There's even an argument to be made, a strong argument that it might be the greatest stop motion feature of all time.
Oh, I think without question. Even when I rewatched it like a month ago, I even just had the thought, like, is this the best American animated movie since Walt died?
It's fair. There's a real case to be made for that.
Because other than like The Little Mermaid, what's the options?
Beauty and the Beast, I think, is the best. But
Beauty and the Beast is before this? Okay, so you
no,
got
you mean yes, Beauty and the Beast is before this because that's 92. And Nightmare is 93. But yes, but that's about it. But that's also the crazy thing, right? Is you have Little Mermaid in 89, then you have Beauty and the Beast is 91, Aladdin is 92. I mean, Rescuers Down Under is 90, but Aladdin is 92, and then Nightmare Before Christmas they get like gun shy and lump it onto Touchstone and slap Tim Burton's name on it, but well received. I think it picked up some Oscar nominations too in its day. Just some incredible iconography in that film too.
It's amazing songs. It looks unbelievable. It's still, I mean, Henry Selick has made Coraline, and he just did Wendell and Wild last year, which
Monkey Bone,
obviously Monkey Bone, but like those two movies look great. But you also go, there's a certain elegance to Nightmare Before Christmas, and the iconography, like the look of the characters is just so much more. Even if Wendell and Wild's a little more, technically advanced and everything, you just look at Jack Skellington and Sandy Claus and the Oogie Boogie Man and Sally, and or Zero, like you just go like, I could just look at this all day long.
Yeah,
and it's like a tight 70, like. It's kind of a perfect movie. Like it's I mean, another one where you just go, wow, it this long, I guess, but also go like, hey, more power to him.
Yeah,
good
absolutely.
movie.
It's an excellent call, and it's just nice that it gets recognized that way, because I feel like it's still, even though it sells a lot of merchandise, and even though like now if you go to like Disney World or Disneyland around the holidays, they'll pull out Jack and Sally every chance they get, but like it was kind of this redheaded stepchild for so long, and it can finally shake that reputation.
I mean, to the point where in like middle school and high school, I remember being like, I love Nightmare Before Christmas, but like seeing the other people like Nightmare Before Christmas, I'm like, oh well, I'm not wearing this shit. I'm not going to
the Hot Topic
to get that merch because I don't want to be like these fucking people.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, I almost exclusively drink with those people now. So there you go. I am those people. I am Hollywood Boulevard.
Wow. Terminator 2 and Nightmare Before Christmas back to back, and Home Alone. I mean, Queen of Diamonds.
Gotta get the most.
I was gonna say Queen of Diamonds was not part of my rotation, but otherwise you're just naming VHS tapes I watched as a child.
I mean, right? You just like there's like a few of them that I'm going to like watch like this month. So, but like at this point, we have to like get like the next movie has to be the most like dirt deep, miserable fucking movie I like ever made.
Next up, a VHS compilation of old Tweety Bird cartoons that Mike had. It's just gonna be
next up, the American remake of Funny Games.
Oh Christ!
Oh, what's next on the docket, Anthony? Please say it's something else that I rented from Blockbuster as a child.
I don't think so. The Wedding Banquet.
Oh, the Ang Lee movie.
I was gonna say that's the Ang Lee movie, right?
Yeah. I think second Ang Lee in the registry. That's cool. Okay. Yeah. I mean, well, think about it. Like that is
what's his first? Is it Crouch? It's not Crouching Tiger.
No, it's not Brokeback Mountain.
Brokeback, yeah.
No, Wedding Banquet. I mean, that is a gay, an LGBT themed film in like the early 90s, right? That's pretty. I mean, that's pretty bold in and of itself. It's one of his calling cards, I think, right? Like I think
because this was like the movie that kind of got him Sense and Sensibility, which then led to the Ice Storm, which led to what's this? The Civil War movie, Ride with the Devil. which then leads to Crouching Tiger.
Yeah.
Which, you know,
This is kind of
it's the movie that kicks the snowball down the hill.
It's not it's not his first because I think
no, that's the
Pushing Hands,
the Kung Fu movie.
And then after Pushing Hands, I think Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, right? And then Wedding Banquet. I want to say.
Think so.
But Wedding Banquet.
I think Wedding Banquet's second.
So Wedding Banquet gives him Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, I guess, and then from there. So...
Well, no, I think as I remember from the Blank Check talk about it was that Wedding Banquet was kind of not out yet while he was filming Eat, Drink, and then it kind of just became this thing of like, oh well, Wedding Banquet's making a splash, and then this movie makes a bigger splash, so it's like, oh, we got to get this guy to do Sense and Sensibility. We've been trying to make for like 5 years with Emma Thompson. She's, you know, so let's get this guy. It seems like up his alley, this family drama thing, costume drama, blah, blah, let's get him. Yeah, I mean, and with Aang, it's like, you know, 2-time Best Director winner, obviously one of the most important directors working in the last 30 years. Got to honor him, but there's also that thing of, well, half of his movies are eligible. The other half aren't because he likes going back to, you know, he likes going back to Asia to make movies every now and then. So... And
I don't think taking Woodstock's getting in anytime soon. So not taking, but just
you know, hey, listen, there's still a few more picks left.
Okay, but
all we know for sure that's not in is Elf.
I should have been tracking the viewer count just to see if they actually did leave after you insulted the viewer, and if not, thank you for sticking around. Tom is not used to being live. Wedding Banquet. That's cool. That's a good one. That's one of those ones that like. I feel like we get these sometimes, Tom, where like we weren't expecting it, but you kind of just go like, yeah, good call. Like no qualms.
It's a little more not fitting, but it's kind of more what you expect the registry to do than have something like Terminator 2 or Home Alone or whatever, or Nightmare Before Christmas. Because like those are big movies, those aren't going anywhere, where you kind of want these things that led to something. And
also, you know,
are not very well.
Wedding Banquet is a perfect example of like documenting a community and a way of life for some people that is not often captured on film, right? You know, representing.
So it's like a perfect confluence of a lot of things that kind of make it a quintessential registry pick. So good job, guys. Next,
what's next, Anthony?
Maya Lin, A Strong, Clear Vision.
That sounds like a documentary.
I do know that. I've not seen it. That is a documentary that won the Oscar. That won the Oscar in the 1994. Okay. Yeah. So I was going through all the Oscar winners, but I stopped documentaries by like the 70s because I ran out of time. Maya Lin, A Strong what did you say? The full title? I don't remember.
Strong, Clear Vision.
Yeah, that's about her designing the Vietnam War Memorial, right? Yeah. So that's so I mean, like, again, I haven't personally seen it, but I'm obviously familiar with Maya Lin. I'm familiar with the memorial, and not gonna lie, Tom, do we need to say any more besides it is about Maya Lin designing the Vietnam War Memorial for you to go, yeah, that's worth a documentary? That seems like that would be a fascinating journey.
Oh, that's definitely worth a documentary. I definitely want to watch that, but I'm also on the Wikipedia page for it now, and do you know about the controversy that stems from this movie?
No, do tell.
Roger Ebert suggested that the nomination of Maya Lin for the Oscar was based on cronyism since
Hoop Dreams? Is this the Hoop Dreams year?
Since Frida Mock was chair of the committee which makes the nominations, though she stepped aside for the year that Maya Lin was under consideration, and was thus close friends with many of the committee members. Yes, he was mad that Hoop Dreams didn't get nominated.
Yeah. And until this year, they had a chairman. This year, the woman who was the chairman stepped aside for a year because she had a film that was in the running, and what do you know? They nominated it. It's the Stockholm Syndrome. They're so friendly that, of course, they wanted to do her a favor. And every year, if you go back year after year and look at the nominees, you'll find 1 or 2 nominees that are fishy because the people that manipulate the committee are trying to get their pictures nominated. This situation stinks. It's rotten. And until the Academy reforms it, they have shame on their name.
She denied the nomination anyway, stemmed from cronyism, and hired an attorney to respond to the press. And then Ebert and Siskel kind of had to publicly eat shit because when they finally saw the movie, again, Ebert talking shit about a movie he didn't see, he would thrive on Twitter, that bitch. He had to apologize because they're like, yeah, it's a good movie and deserved to be nominated. We are very sorry.
Yeah. Wow.
What a bitch.
Yeah, like Hoop Dreams is already in the registry for the record. Like, and not knocking Hoop Dreams is a great documentary. I do think like that is perfectly emblematic of this thing that happens and is, as we record this, we are heading into award season. A thing that happens constantly, which is the movie I like, the movie that is good, didn't get recognized, which is a fair thing to be mad about. But then picking something else and going, well, it's this thing's fault. This thing sucks. This, like, we don't have to take it out on these things. We don't have to. And now, obviously, it is in the registry. So I am guessing, and this is just my guess, I don't know the names of every person on the committee for the National Film Registry. I'm assuming the director of this film is not also sitting on the committee for the National Film Registry. So no accusations of cronyism there, you know? That's a positive, at least. What a weird thing.
What a seriously, that's like I like not even to pick on Ebert or whatever. Like I like picking on Ebert. I think everyone here worships him a little too much. But like I just hate that shit. Like you didn't see the fucking movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Why are you talking then?
And like, you know, this.
Yeah, Hoop Dreams is great. I love Hoop Dreams.
Yeah,
I will probably like Hoop Dreams more than this movie because it's a movie about inner city basketball and how America sucks. So like I'm like it's like an episode of The Wire basically. Like okay, yeah, like I'm into that. But I haven't seen this movie, so I'm not gonna say it sucks and does it. Someone had to fucking do like union busting cronyism to like get the goddamn thing nominated.
We are in the final 5. How many more controversies are there? How many more people will Tom offend? I'm so afraid. What lay ahead for us?
I just wanted to make a suggestion.
Oh, hang on. I just want to note real quick. Average Tunist said, "It's okay. I'm glad to stick around watching this live. I just want to apologize. You have nothing to apologize for.
No, we're fucking around with you, bro. You're
nothing
fine.
To apologize for. And I also want to put that Home Alone, Judgment Day, and Nightmare is one of those it's about time choices. You are damn right, Average Tunist. You are absolutely right.
Yeah. No, you're
thank you.
Right.
Thank you for sticking around. We appreciate it. Check out the podcast. You'll hear Tom insult other people that are not.
Sometimes to their face.
Yeah, sometimes to their face. At least if it makes you feel better, as soon as you didn't get as badly insulted by Tom as the late Roger Ebert. So you've got that going for you. Anthony, final 5. What are we looking at?
One thing, I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
Pick this or leave this, but I found this thing. I'm cleaning out my apartment because I'm going to move in with my fiance eventually. I found this. Sorry.
What's happening? What is that?
You'll find out. I think every time Tom says something offensive or insults somebody, you should use this sound effect. Just a suggestion. Do whatever you want. Next up is Apollo 13.
Wow.
Wait, what? Really? Wait, hang on. Really?
Correct.
Apollo.
Wow.
So I already said this during the stream. Around the apartment, my partner and I have been making jokes. I've been making jokes about Ron Howard's "How the Grinch Stole Christmas" getting in, and now her face every time I mentioned Ron Howard and specifically Apollo 13 makes so much more sense.
A lot of synergy today. A lot of
right.
Wow. Synergy.
Apollo 13. I mean, good call. No dispute in there. One of the best kind of space movies. And I think the first Ron Howard, right? So Ron Howard got one in this year. Good for you, Ron.
It would have to be, right?
Yeah. Because the only other things would be like A Beautiful Mind, right?
Yeah, like
which is Apollo 13's his best movie, I think. So
I might go with Rush, but
I like Rush, but Apollo. I mean, yeah, Apollo. I mean, that's also Apollo 13, one of those like you always leave it on when it's on films like that.
It's one of the top tier TNT movies.
Yeah. I wonder, like, I remember it being like that when we were kids. That movie was huge, right? Like that was one of those like referenced when they talk about the great movies. I had wondered, like, I feel like AFI lists had it in there, and like those great movies books that like your parents would buy you or whatever. I had wondered if it had lost its luster, but now that it's in the registry officially, like clearly that's it. It's solidified. Like that is a movie that stands the test of time, and I'm glad. Great cast, really compelling film. Like, you know,
Great movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, good. Apollo 13. That makes me very happy. That just took me by surprise for the Ron Howard of it all. Best Picture nominee, right? It was nominated.
Yeah.
I think that's nominated the Babe year, right?
Yes, I think so.
I think it's like Babe, Apollo 13,
Il Postino.
Il Postino. Yeah, because I remember you in college used to rant about Babe and Il Postino getting nominated and not like Heat and Seven. Damned if I could remember what else is that year, but Il Postino, Apollo 13, Babe. I think that's the Braveheart year, maybe. Wins picture.
I think it's Braveheart.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And there's one more I don't remember. What's next, Anthony?
We have Bamboozled from the year 2000.
And that brings us up to 3. I submitted Bamboozled to the registry. First time I put it up there, long time ago, back on Gone with the Wind. To tell you how long some of these have been in contention. I love Bamboozled, and you want to talk about. We were talking about it with The Nightmare Before Christmas, how it was kind of like the redheaded stepchild of Disney.
Yeah.
Right. Bamboozled was definitely a movie that was not well respected or well received in its day. I think some people thought it was abrasive because of like the shot on mini DV tape style or whatever. I remember it being like a punchline on The Critic. When they did those like The Critic web shorts in like the early 2000s for like Comedy Central or whatever. Bamboozled was not well received, I think, in its day. Or not as well received as it should have been. And then it started to pick up this kind of second life of people going, no, you should check that out. This is an underrated part of his filmography. Tom can attest, like, for at least a decade, I've been going to bat for Bamboozled as one of Spike's best movies. I think getting the Criterion disc really turned it around. And you can tell that Spike is proud of it. Because, like, if you've ever been down to the 40 Acres and a Mule kind of office space, he still has the cutouts from the fake show.
Don't know if that's really, the man bought a Cybertruck.
Well, yeah, but it's a weird. It's also, I'll say this, weird thing to see out of context, right? Like I have the Criterion for Bamboozled, and when we were moving in to this apartment, I remember like I was unpacking them, and Bella saw that Blu-ray and looked horrified because she was like, "What on earth is this? Why do you have this?" I'm like, "No, it's I promise," because it is. I mean, the reason I suggested it to the registry in the first place is it's not just about like, yeah, it's a fun satire, right? It's a network style satire, but it also is a filmmaker reckoning with the history of minstrelsy in America, which is a crucial part of American pop culture history, right? As we're going to talk about this coming season, we have to reckon with Birth of a Nation, right? We have to deal with the fact that like that's a foundational film of American cinema, which is deeply unfortunate. And so much of American culture is rooted in minstrelsy and minstrel shows and all of that. And we don't talk about it because we don't know how to talk about it. And because we don't know how to talk about it, we keep finding shit in our culture that we go, hey, did you know where this song came from? You know, and it's really rough. Spike explores that in a really interesting way. I mean, there is a scene in Bamboozled that is absolutely heartbreaking, which is just taking you through the steps of applying blackface and just how denigrating it is and how depressing it is. I go to bat for Bamboozled. I love that film. And now it's in the registry, which is very cool. This is like the, I think, 4th or 5th Spike film to get in. So hell yeah. Because I know Do the Right Thing, Malcolm X, Four Little Girls. There might be another one I'm forgetting. But I mean, I'm a big Spike Lee fan, one of my favorite filmmakers. Glad this got in. I'm pretty sure it won't be the last Spike film to get in either, because there's
probably not.
But yeah,
like 10 other movies should have been ahead of it. Bad movie. But yeah, you know, whatever.
I love that movie. But okay, what's
We got
Next
3 left,
up.
right?
what's next up? We're in our 3 left. That's crazy. So now Bamboozled is what, like 2000, right? So we're in like there's a 2-decade range of eligible, not even, right? Because the earliest something could, or
12,
the latest
13.
would have been 2013. And
Yeah.
like we talked about yesterday, Tom, like on our stream, like we looked at
Don't think
2013.
2013's coming in.
Yeah. So what's next, Anthony? What's the next film?
Another year 2000. Love and Basketball.
Oh, good.
Oh,
That's a great one.
even they're trying to make Gina Prince Bythewood seem like she's important.
It's always nice to know what's not staying in the livestream. No, it's a great. Have you seen Love and Basketball, Tom?
No, I haven't.
No. I'm dead serious. You would really. It's a great film. It's really good because it is genuinely like, it is. It's a fun rom-com that still has a lot of tension to it. And obviously, it's dealing with kind of women's basketball pre, the major, boost
Before there was a real big
after
push
WNBA.
for the WNBA.
Yeah, and
yeah.
great performances. And the other thing about it too is like there is a romantic and sexual tension between the leads that's actually real and palpable, which you really don't see in movies a lot now. So
no, movies are sexless now. They are made. It's funny that Barbie came out this year because movies are made exclusively with living Barbie dolls. They don't have genitals.
No, this is definitely a sexy,
except for Michael
movie.
Fassbender. We know that man's got a dick.
This is definitely like a genuinely sexy movie. It is one of those movies. Talking about Gina Prince Bythewood, it is a calling card movie where you kind of like look at that and go like, this is an impressive. And it got a Criterion recently, and it's
This is actually a movie where I would probably like it because I come from, we're 90s kids, but I'm also from Brooklyn, so I have this like split energy of being like, oh, he's a white kid, but he also like watches Friday After Next during Christmas. Like I kind of grew up with a lot of black culture, so there's a lot of, I have a lot of that stuff where I probably would like this. This was one of those movies that like my cousins who would show me like that kind of stuff would be like, it would be on TV, but I never watched it, and I'm like, oh, I kind of would like. I probably would like it. I was more just busting balls about how she made her 3rd movie like 5 years ago, The Old Guard, and everyone tried to convince you she's the most important director in the world.
Hang on, it was because her trajectory is Love and Basketball. Then I think there's like an HBO film, but I think it's Secret Life of Bees after that, and then Beyond the Lights, which is the one that really and then it was the whole thing of like. There was also the element of Beyond the Lights was one of those, like Love and Basketball hit, and it hit big. Not that it was like making, My Big Fat Greek Wedding money, but like that was a movie that like came out and people were like, hey, you have to see this.
Yeah.
Beyond the Lights got like criminally buried. And it was one of those like movies that it came out to, with little fanfare, but then people who saw it were like, you should check this out. This is actually pretty good. And I think there was an element of like, why the hell hasn't this person been allowed to make more movies? These were good. And then there was that.
I was just busting chops because it's like, all right, it's 4 movies. Let's stop acting like anything's going on here. But listen. I'm sure I would. This one is a movie I actually do want to see because this is one that I've been kind of like hovering, I guess, for like fucking 23 years at this point. Christ.
Yeah.
Next.
All right, we're in the final 2, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Next up is 2013's.
Wait, what?
Yeah, they skipped right from
There's
2000.
2 movies from 2013.
We just did a whole thing, Anthony. For an hour yesterday, we tried to speculate what's going to get in. Is anything going to get in its first year of eligibility? And we looked at 2013 and went, "Well, there's a couple that'll get in eventually, but probably not in its first year." I guess there's 2.
Yeah, 2 from 2013, babies.
Wow.
First up,
Fascinating.
12 Years a Slave.
Wow.
Well, so that was one that we brought up yesterday in terms of like, that's gonna get in. It's a great movie, but they probably won't do it on its first year of eligibility. They may not feel that urgency. Good. That is.
I guess. Not that it's a good movie. We figured to get in. I guess the registry's still riding high on the small act stuff.
I think it's partly small. I think there's also the element of like there is something about 12 Years a Slave where I think it got, number one, it got caught up in a lot of discourse, right? That like maybe didn't befit it. I think two, it occupies a weird place in the Oscar world where 12 Years a Slave is coming off of like, it's in that weird transitional state of, remember, the Best Picture winners before that are kind of, right? You
Soggy
know,
white bread.
I mean, like Argo, I'm not mad at Argo, right? But Argo was obviously like a consensus choice that year. The year before that is The Artist. The year before that is King's Speech, right? 12 Years a Slave comes out, wins Best Picture, but also like some of its steam is taken by the fact that like they're really over rewarding Gravity because that wins Best Director instead of Steve McQueen, which is crazy. And Chiwetel Ejiofor loses Best Actor to McConaughey and Dallas Buyers Club, right?
But Lupita does win.
Lupita wins, which is one of those unimpeachable performances.
Which is also funny too, because you think about Lupita's career and it's like, oh, she's only done like 6 performances in like the last 10 years. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I listen, I'm not mad that this is in.
It's an extraordinary.
We were talking about it. It also feels like it's kind of getting recognized here because it almost feels like, all right, this should be the last time we do this.
Well,
because the conversation since it's come out, it's been, oh my God, are we going to do it? We got another slave movie. Because remember the discourse when the Harriet Tubman movie came out?
Oh, I mean, the one that really was worse was the Underground Railroad. When people were saying that about sight unseen about the Amazon Prime adaptation of Colson Whitehead's novel, where they're like, another sad slave novel. I'm like, there's a fucking train. This is sci-fi.
But no, but that's what
book.
But that like since this movie's came out, it almost feels like, all right, we're done now. If you keep trying to do this, we're not going to listen anymore.
But it even got 12 Years a Slave even
it got that. I know.
And I remember that because it was one of those things where like I remember there being a conversation. I swear to God, there was some interview with Steve McQueen where they were like, well, you know, is it necessary to tell? And Steve McQueen kind of going, this is a real story about this is a real guy's life. This was a real like bestseller and it is truly insane that we don't all know this story because it is a fascinating, like, we don't talk enough about, like, to evoke maybe like the original, not the original slave novel, but like, to evoke like another discourse to death subject, like Uncle Tom's Cabin, the novel, which we're going to have to reckon with when we talk about Birth of a Nation. We're going to have to reckon with when we talk about the film adaptation. Part of what made that so stirring for people is that it specifically describes like, oh no, if you're a slave or just a black person that gets enslaved and you are sent down south, that's basically the undiscovered country. Like that's basically a nightmare, right? People in the North were fully aware of like, you don't want to be down there. They will do horrible shit down there. And 12 Years a Slave like really captures that in terms of, I mean, it's a drama, but it is, McQueen knows how to make this feel like a horror movie at points, like there is a malicious, it's, I don't know. I think one of the things that makes that movie so remarkable too is despite what some might throw at it, it never once feels exploitative. You know what I mean? Like it is always so purposeful in its filmmaking. And that's true of McQueen in general.
Well, that just almost feels like what I'm saying. It feels like, all right, we discoursed it a little bit, but we accepted it. We accepted its Best Picture win. We're done with this now. Please, we're not giving people any more leeway with this. We've done, how many more stand-ups can we talk about? Oh, well, they only give black people awards for slave movies. Like, all right, we're done.
Good. Yeah. So I'm fascinated. The last one is also a 2013 movie.
Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
I was going to say, Anthony, before you read it, Tom, you and I each one guess. What other 2013 movie are we going to be talking about today?
Blackfish.
Okay. I mean, I guess I'll just take yours. I think Frozen. I don't know if they do 3 Disney, but like you called Frozen, and I think that was a good call. That was like the only one that made sense to us. So, Anthony, what are we getting?
You're both wrong. It is
the delivery of that.
Wrong.
Well, especially because the whole rest of the time you're like, good guess. Hey, man, good guess. And now you're like, good. I'm going to take you down a peg. Okay.
It is 20 feet from Stardom.
Okay.
You guys know that one? No.
I know it. I know we both know it. Because you know what? That is interesting, right? Because it's kind of an example of Tom. You know how we were just talking about Roger Ebert being a dick to Maya Lin because he's like, well, the movie I really liked didn't win, right, and didn't get nominated, so I'm going to take it out on this, right? My feelings on 20 Feet from Stardom, which I haven't seen since 2013, right? My feelings on 20 Feet from Stardom are forever going to be colored by the fact, and do you remember where I'm going with this, Tom?
I think so.
It beat The Act of Killing at the Oscars. Yes. And we both love The Act of Killing, the documentary about the Cambodian, people have seen the act. If you haven't seen The Act of Killing, I'm actually not going to describe it. Look it up if you can handle something bleak, but it's a fascinating watch. But this beat that, right? And I think that you and I were both very down on that. And yeah, I mean, I should revisit it. It is, admittedly, it's a fascinating subject, right? Like, it is a clever idea to kind of go like, let's pull back the curtain, let's talk about the backup folks. And you do get like great interviews with Darlene Love. And it is a look at like a portion of American life and the American music industry that really isn't talked about. So I give it that. I feel perhaps amiss commenting on it, if just because, again, it's been 10 years since I've seen it, and how I watched it is definitely colored by the act of killing of it all.
I get that, but it's like the Fame thing where I just go, that's weird, man. That feels like weird.
It is surprising that is a year one.
Yeah,
right?
like
I will say that
weird.
That is very surprising. And I think that kind of makes me want to rewatch it now, just in terms of like the fact that it had the urgency. Because there's also like, there's not a lot of movies that get in on year one. I think it's like, it cannot be more than 10 that get in on their first year.
It's not common.
No. So that's interesting.
Weird as shit.
Yeah.
The description isn't like.
Yeah, what does it say? I'm interested.
It doesn't really like sing its praises. Morgan Neville directed.
Oh, you piece! No. You don't just get to roll through that terrible pun and we don't acknowledge it. Absolutely not. You do not get to Groucho this. It doesn't sing its praises.
Well, it's just kind of matter of fact. Here, I'll read it. Morgan Neville directed this fascinating Oscar-winning documentary on backup singers, the unsung musical workhorse heroes who provide musical harmony and essential contributions to famous songs while lurking in the shadows. The film features interviews with prominent backup singers such as Darlene Love, Mary Clayton, Lisa Fisher, and Judith Hill, interspersed with archival footage from artists such as David Bowie. That's it. That's all it says. It doesn't say like, this will change your life. You'll ever look at backup singers differently again. Like,
why do you think they hired Bob Dylan to write the registry synopses? Like 70s Bob Dylan specifically.
I was just going for a voice, man. I don't know. Just trying
Watch 20 Feet from Stardom. I'm gonna go sing Nashville Skyline.
Imagine 20 Feet from Stardom. Sing about the hurricane.
No, see, you're doing like late 70s, early 80s. I'm talking. See, Anthony was doing more like early, like, positively 4th Street Dylan. Like the.
It was like Dylan and Charles Bronson kind of.
Yes, it's the residents of Bronson, Missouri.
Hey, buddy.
All right.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Weird final pick.
Yeah. Weird final pick. But an interesting year over. Well, I would say like, okay, the two questions.
Well, this is a complete 180 from last year.
I was gonna say that's the big takeaway from me is like way more populist choices this year.
And less fucking misery.
Year. Yeah, way less of that. Of these, off the top of your head, right? And you don't have to like do a full count. I don't know if we have in front of. How many would you say you have? Both of you guys, Anthony, you're in on this too. How many would you say you have seen? Right.
Well, I definitely, once we started hitting like the 80s, we got to a point where it's like, oh, I've seen this. I'm actually just gonna like clock it at this point because why not?
Yeah, I'm at 11. I'd say. So I've seen about 11 of them.
5.
5. Okay.
5.
Okay. Be funny if it was none of the populist ones.
Yeah.
If you were just like, never seen this Terminator 2, but as a kid, I watched Maya Lin, A Clear, Strong Vision every day.
Cruisin J-Town.
10.
Cruisin J-Town. 10, you said, Tom? Okay.
Yes.
Cool. I wonder, you and I probably have almost identical ones, really. I would venture to guess. But anyway, of the films, and again, Anthony, you're in on this too, of all the films that you haven't seen that have gotten inducted, which one are you most interested in checking out? AKA, for Tom, which one would you not wait 30 years to watch?
Christ, I gotta look at the list again. I guess Love and Basketball.
Mm-hmm.
What's the sad casino movie?
Queen of Diamonds, right?
Oh no, excuse me. Edge of the City.
Edge of the City, of course.
Edge of the City. Excuse me. Excuse fucking me.
Anthony, what about you? What are you most intrigued by?
I'd love to watch Fame with my dad.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
And just see what he thinks about it, because he lived that shit, and I would just love for him to be like, yeah, no, this is like theater kid horse shit, or like whatever.
He's gonna look at you and be like, you never watched fucking Fame?
Yeah,
what?
I never told you about that.
What if instead you get no commentary on the movie, and just the entire time there's like some emotional scene going on?
Like
He just goes, I made out with a girl in that hallway.
Yeah, like he's just solidly nostalgic about it the whole time. Like,
you see that water fountain? My friend Jimmy shoved some kid's face in it once.
Yeah.
It's like nothing about the plot. Just
yeah.
There was a teacher in that classroom who was such a dick.
Oh, he'll definitely say that.
I would say for me, like, I'm very intrigued by Cruisin J-Town. I'm not just saying that because I love saying the title, but I do love saying the title. I should get around to Queen of Diamonds, but if anybody happens to know how I can see Andrew Norin's The Lighted Field, which appears to be like inaccessible, let me know.
You just
Drop
gotta
me a line.
You just gotta during the Christmas season where there's a lot of lights, you gotta drop a lot of acid and then just wander around under the Verrazano Bridge, and then just it happens to you.
I'm so excited because you know what? Inducting an Andrew Norton film is cool because coming up on season 4, which will be coming soon enough, we have to tackle not just one but 2 non-narrative experimental films. So
yay!
Take that. Well, I think you liked Castro Street. I think you gave it a decent review on Letterboxd.
I know.
Street.
I'm just dicking around because I'm tired of this.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for checking out this live stream. This was totally new for us. Unless you're listening to it on your podcast feed, we're going to put the audio on the You're Missing Out podcast feed. The video will go up on our YouTube channel, and we will edit in footage of the films while we talk about it, which will hopefully be fun to watch. But thank you guys for checking this out. Anthony DiCaprio, thank you so much for coming on, buddy. Stepping in for this one.
Exactly.
Having to navigate a lot of that. We will be back on your feeds relatively soon, in the next couple of months or so, doing our kind of Oscar reactions. That's right. We're going to step away from registry films. We're going to talk about the films that are being recognized as great this year. And that is the one episode where our usual policy of let's try and be polite and respectful towards films kind of goes out the window, because guaranteed there's at least one Best Picture nominee Tom hates every year. And
Saltburn
just got a Critics' Choice nomination.
Dumbasses.
Best Picture.
They fuck with the lights off.
Everybody, thank you so much for joining us, and we will be back with season 4 soon. Rate, review, subscribe, like the videos, tell your friends, whatever else you got to do. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you around.
Bye, assholes.